Two dead and about 30 injured after a London to Singapore flight encountered severe turbulence. Heavy rain hits the city with the red rainstorm warning signal in force for some time. And a stabbing incident on board a subway train in Taiwan leaves 3 people injured. Hello and welcome to TVB News. 2 passengers reportedly died and around 30 others were injured aboard a Singapore Airlines flight from London after the aircraft encountered severe turbulence. The Boeing 777-300ER, carrying 211 passengers and 18 crew, made an emergency landing in Bangkok today. Flight SQ321 from Heathrow to Singapore was diverted to Bangkok and landed at around 4:45 p.m. in Hong Kong time at Suvarnabhumi Airport. Local emergency crews from Srimatiway Srinacaran Hospital were on site to transfer injured people off the runway for treatment. Tracking data captured by Flight Radar 24, the aircraft cruising at an altitude of 11,300 meters. Just after about 4 p.m., it suddenly and sharply pitched down to 9,400 meters over the span of some 3 minutes. It stayed at 9,400 meters for just under 10 minutes before rapidly descending and landing in Bangkok in just under half an hour. The descent happened as the flight was over the Andaman Sea approaching Myanmar. The weather remains unstable in the city, and the red rainstorm warning signal was issued by the observatory earlier today. It also marked the first time an upgraded rainstorm warning signal was announced to the public in advance. Several areas in the SAR recorded rainfall of over 50 millimeters, while the south of Lantau Island saw rainfall of up to 300 millimeters. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Thunderstorms struck Lantau Island this morning, lasting for more than half of the day. The observatory issued the amber rainstorm warning signal at 10 a.m. and reminded residents of comparatively heavy rain on Lantau Island and the western parts of the city. Visibility on the Chiang Mai Bridge also remained low throughout the period. This as the landslide took place on South Lantau Road in the island's Tong Fuk area. This local resident said the rain was heaviest at around 11:30 a.m., but noted most of the rain subsided an hour later. While this man said it is rare to have floods in his village, adding that he hopes drainage services in the area will improve. The areas of heavy rain around Lantau Island and the south of the city converged at around 2 p.m. and moved towards Hong Kong Island and Kowloon. The occasion also marked the first time weather authorities have announced the red rainstorm warning signal to the public 10 minutes in advance, before the alert was issued at 2:50 p.m. The poor weather condition resulted in puddles appearing across the Canal Road flyover in Wan Chai, as well as Wang Shuk Hung in the Southern District. Many students were also forced to stay behind on school premises due to the red rainstorm warning signal. The rainstorm warning signal was downgraded to amber at around 4 p.m., before being completely cancelled half an hour later. As of this evening, Lantau Island has recorded rainfall of over 300 millimeters since this morning, while areas such as Tuen Mun, the Southern District, Tseung Kwan O, and Sai Kung recorded rainfall of between 50 and 70 millimeters. The observatory forecasts that heavy rain will continue throughout the next 2 to 3 days. Meanwhile, the MTR installed flood detection devices at 42 entry and exit points of 26 stations in preparation for the upcoming typhoon season. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The government has unveiled the lineup of more than 100 mega events to be held in Hong Kong during the second half of the year. Chief Executive John Lee also revealed that he will seek Beijing's approval for a proposal to raise the duty-free shopping limit for mainland tourists. Jackie Lin reports.
Among the centerpieces of mega events on the way, the Chinese Kung Fu and Dance Carnival in July, which will bring together over 1,000 martial artists and dancers, presenting more than 60 shows and performances. In the second half of this year, 25 cultural, arts and creative events will be in the pipeline. Starting late June, M+ Museum will host the exhibition I Am Pei, Life is Architecture, with displays that look back at the renowned architect's life and work showcased for the first time. In October, an inaugural Hong Kong Performing Arts Expo promoting artistic exchanges and relevant trade is among a total of 42 conventions and expos set to take place in the second half of this year. An expansion of some festive traditions too. The Tai Hang Fire Dragon Dance in September will have a longer parade route than before. Hong Kong Winterfest and the flagship gourmet event of the Wine and Dine Festival will continue.
Some of the events in the second half actually has a much larger capacity in terms of attracting visitors. And therefore, we believe that the number of visitors coming to Hong Kong for those mega events will actually be bigger. Do not forget, the mega events are not just for visitors. The mega events are there for our own people.
Following the international success of a box office hit set in the former Kowloon Walled City, the government is considering turning part of the film sets into a tourist attraction.
They've been keeping it rather good conditions. So discussions are ongoing as to whether they can let us have some part of the set.
Chief Executive John Lee said the number of major events in 2024 has increased to upwards of 210. They are expected to draw about 1.7 million visitors and spending of $7.2 billion. Lee said he will seek Beijing's approval for a proposal to raise the duty-free shopping limit for mainland tourists to help boost Hong Kong's tourism. After football star Lionel Messi's no-show saga at the Hong Kong Friendly in February, will the government be more careful in inviting international personalities to the city?
No matter what happens in the past, it will not stop us from trying to bid for more events to come to Hong Kong.
The government said they will continue to woo more international sporting competitions to be held in Hong Kong, and they will review the issues that arose in Messi's exhibition match. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
The University of Hong Kong's business school is investigating cases of forged documents being submitted for the admission of new students. This, as intermediary agencies said they could guarantee applicants admission into the city's top 8 universities for a fee of $300,000 to $400,000. Some recent posts on mainland social media platform Xiaohongshu showed emails sent by the Hong Kong U Business School requiring its master's students to provide digital versions of their transcripts and certificates for their respective program. The school noted their investigations revealed a small number of cases of students had submitted forged documents. The business school condemned the dishonest behavior, adding that it will take legal action against those who engage in such activity. Individuals who are found to have submitted such documents will also have their admission offers withdrawn. Authorities say such acts could lead to charges of conspiracy to defraud. Offenders are liable to a maximum sentence of 14 years in prison. In Taichung, a knife-wielding man stabbed 3 people on a subway train before being subdued by passengers. The attack happened at around noon in a train carriage. Many passengers could be seen fleeing from the scene, while some tried to stop the attack with an umbrella. Some passengers pinned the 20-year-old suspect down and took away his knife. Local authorities said the suspect, surnamed Hung, has records of mental illness. Authorities seized 2 fruit knives and a cleaver at the scene. None of the injured are in critical condition. The attack came on the 10th anniversary of a deadly knife rampage on Taipei's metro, which killed 4 and injured 22 others. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has condemned the International Crime Court's chief prosecutor for requesting his arrest and that of Defense Minister Yoav Gallant on alleged war crimes. Netanyahu was backed by U.S. President Joe Biden and many in the Israeli government, including some of his political rivals. Hamas also hit out at the ICC's Karim Khan, who on Monday laid out a list of alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity against both sides. Arrest warrants are also being requested for Hamas leaders Yahya Sinwar, Mohammed Deif, and Ismail Haniyeh for the October 7th attacks. Nazvi Karim has more.
My office submits that there are reasonable grounds to believe that these three Hamas leaders are criminally responsible for the killing of Israeli civilians. My office charges Netanyahu and Gallant as co-perpetrators and as superiors in the commission of these alleged crimes.
It's rare for Hamas and Israel to be singing the same song, but after ICC's Karim Khan made his announcement, both rejected the findings.
The outrageous decision by the ICC prosecutor, Karim Khan, to seek arrest warrants against the democratically elected leaders of Israel is a moral outrage of historic proportions. Mr. Khan creates a twisted and false moral equivalence between the leaders of Israel and the henchmen of Hamas.
Hamas came out with similar language, the group saying Khan's move equates the victim with the executioner. In Washington, US President Joe Biden, speaking at a Jewish American Heritage event, also hit out at the ICC, insisting Israel is not committing genocide.
Let me be clear. We reject the ICC's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders. Whatever these warrants may imply, there is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas. What's happening is not genocide. We reject that.
Khan, in outlining the charges, wants Israel to answer for crimes against humanity and war crimes that include starvation of civilians, willful killing or murder, intentionally attacking civilians, persecution, and other inhumane acts, among others. Hamas's three leaders are accused of murder, the taking of hostages, rape, and other acts of sexual violence, torture during captivity, and other inhumane acts. Meanwhile, the International Court of Justice, or ICJ, a civil tribunal, is deliberating on a case brought by South Africa accusing Israel of genocide. The ICC, which handles criminal matters, needs a three-member panel of judges to decide if Khan's request can be approved, a process that may take about 2 months. China's permanent representative to the United Nations, Fu Chong, urged the US to use its influence to ensure a ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas. He also called on Israel to stop its attack on the city of Rafah in southern Gaza, where more than 1 million Palestinians are taking shelter. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
Still ahead, mourning continues in Iran after the deaths of the country's president and several other officials in a helicopter crash. In the UK, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak offers an apology for a decades-long health care scandal. And the announcement of this year's Shaw Prize winners. Welcome back. The Iranian government has announced an investigation into the cause of the helicopter crash that killed Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi and Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian, along with 6 others. Raisi's death is likely to reverberate across the Middle East, where Iran's influence runs wide and deep due to Iran's decades-long support of armed groups and militants in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and the Palestinian territories. Tracy Furness has more.
Mourners lined the streets of the Iranian city of Tabriz on Tuesday to bid farewell to President Ebrahim Raisi, his foreign minister and others who were killed in a helicopter crash days earlier. Hundreds of mourners crowded into Tehran's downtown Valley Assur Square, some waving Palestinian flags, many holding up posters of their late leader. Some men visibly crying. This Tehran resident said, "We were shocked that we lost such a character that made Iran proud and humiliated the enemies, especially during the past month. We saw how his power humiliated Israel and America and how Iran was elevated to greatness." The United Nations offered condolences to the Iranian people.
The Secretary General expresses his sincere condolences to the families of the deceased as well as to the government and people of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan declared a day of national mourning in his country following the deaths of the Iranian president, foreign minister and other officials. Raisi visited Venezuela during his first tour of Latin America. Iran and Venezuela, both under heavy US economic sanctions, have a strong relationship.
Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with counterparts on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in Kazakhstan earlier today, including Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. The nation's top diplomat spoke with his Russian counterpart and hailed Russian President Vladimir Putin's recent visit to China. The former said both nations are old friends and that China and Russia are pushing forward on a joint quest to ensure global stability and development. Wang also met with his counterparts from Belarus, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan, stressing that a new chapter has opened for bilateral relations between China and its SCO partners. Officials from the Environment and Ecology Bureau will attend a Legislative Council meeting next week to present findings from the demonstration scheme of the Municipal Waste Charging Scheme. Ahead of the weekly Executive Council meeting, Chief Executive John Lee said the government will take the public's views about the scheme seriously.
Despite having received sufficient discussion and made into law before this term of government has come into office, we should think carefully on how we implement the arrangement. The scheme involves the entirety of the 7 million population. We are taking the opinions of society very seriously.
4 scientists from U.S. universities and research institutes have been named this year's Shaw Prize winners. Jackie Lin reports.
In the 21st edition of the Shaw Prize, the Life Science and Medicine Prize was shared by 2 scholars, Harvard University professor Stuart Orkin and Swee Lei Tan, a Malaysian-born professor at the U.S. National Institutes of Health. They are honored for pioneering a genome editing therapy as a treatment for 2 blood diseases, sickle cell anemia and beta thalassemia. The therapy resolves side effects from repeated blood transfusions. The Shaw Prize Council said while the method involves gene editing, the edited genomes won't pass on to the next generation.
All scientific endeavors, there are boundaries of ethics, as was raised with respect to gene editing and so on. And within those boundaries, all work that's for the good of humankind, for the advancement of knowledge, would be recognized.
The Mathematical Sciences Prize was awarded to Princeton University professor Peter Sornak. That's for his contributions related to arithmetic theories. The Astronomy Prize went to Indian-born Srinivas Kulkarni, a professor at the California Institute of Technology. That's for his discoveries of millisecond pulsars, gamma-ray bursts, supernova, and more. Each laureate will be awarded prize money worth $1.2 million or nearly 9.4 million Hong Kong dollars. The award ceremony will be held on November 12th. The Shaw Prize Council said they are considering setting up new awards as well. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Tens of thousands of people in the UK were infected after being treated with contaminated blood. The scandal was covered up for decades until it recently came to light after an inquiry. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has offered an unequivocal apology and vowed to compensate those affected. Danny Zhou has the story.
The scandal is regarded as the deadliest calamity in the history of Britain's National Health Service. And yet, it was made worse by deliberate cover-up. A lengthy report revealed the scandal has led to 3,000 deaths and thousands more patients contracting hepatitis or HIV.
In families across the UK, people, adults and children, were treated in hospital and at home with blood and blood products, and that NHS treatment resulted in over 30,000 people being infected with viruses which were life-shattering.
Inquiry Chairman Sir Brian Landstaff said the disaster was no accident and could have been avoided. He slammed successive governments and medical professionals for deliberate attempts to conceal the scandal and hide the truth from the public, with evidence showing government officials destroyed documents. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak on Monday apologised for the infected blood scandal and called it a national shame when addressing the House of Commons.
Today I want to speak directly to the victims and their families, some of whom are with us in the gallery. I want to make a wholehearted and unequivocal apology for this terrible injustice.
Sunak told Parliament the result of this inquiry should shake our nation to its core and promised to pay comprehensive compensation to those affected. The full details of the compensation scheme will be set out later on Tuesday. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.